There is two absolutes in every single season of anime, one being that there will be a ton of isekais, and two, that most people won't be able to watch them all, and thus the birth of the Isekai Digest. This will be a video series that will pretty much be in every single season, depending on how many isekais we continue to get, that will essentially cover what are all the isekais that season, and which ones to actually be on the lookout for, because they're not all just kind of cut and paste isekais, and that's the whole true nature of this entire series. My hope is to go through all the shows, let people know a brief idea of what they're looking into and which ones to actually jump into, rather than having to look into every single one of them. So with that said, grab your nearest truck-kun and let's isekai into the Isekai Digest. For the summer 2021 anime season Isekai Digest, we essentially have roughly 15 shows of the 38 or so titles for the season involving isekai of some sort. If you also include reverse isekais and stuff, you kind of include more than that. So first off, let's jump through a brief idea of each of these shows. How a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom. Man is isekai'd into a fantasy medieval time world where he is essentially helping the kingdom with their money by finding different issues with their money spending, agriculture, and ultimately trying to build up the kingdom into a higher status money-wise. Spirit Chronicles, guy dies, goes into the body of another person in another world, where this person is in a poor setting and trying to get the revenge for his mother, and ends up going into the kingdom's royal academy. Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy, guy is essentially fulfilling the contract his parents made when they isekai to his world, to go back to another world, where he essentially finds a dragon, beats the dragon, and starts building a nation within its kind of demi-world. Drugstore in another world. Isekai'd into a world, is making potions and different types of soaps and stuff for people in his area. The Dungeon of Black Company. Guy is super successful in the real world, ends up getting isekai'd into pretty much a world where he has forced to manual labor and is still trying to get to the point where he is self-sufficient in money. Sunny Boy. School and several classmates are transported into a void, and they all have seemingly magical powers. Think Lord of the Flies with magical powers. My Next Life is Villainous. All Routes Lead to Doom, second season. Girl is isekai'd into her own favorite visual novel as the villain and ends up trying to make friends with all the people that are in the visual novel. I'm Sitting on a Million Lives, second season. Man is isekai'd with several of his classmates into another world on a regular basis to do quests, and he's given terrible jobs all the time, so he's a farmer or a cook or whatever trying to fight goblins. And That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, second season, part 2. I'm not caught up on this, but essentially man is reincarnated as a slime in another world, and he builds a nation, and he's surrounded by a harem. And with that list out of the way, let's really kind of dive into what you're particularly looking for, because each one of these shows essentially cover a different type of way of doing the isekai, and I would kind of categorize them in the following. With your darker isekais, it's essentially isekais that have a very kind of serious setting, and there's a lot of risk involved, and often the characters are put through a lot of darker themes. I kind of want to put Sunny Boy in this category because it feels dark. It has not done anything dark yet, but it has a feeling of something like Lord of the Flies, and while we're still waiting on the second episode to really kind of confirm how dark it will eventually get, it does seem to have more of an adult setting. I'm Standing on a Million Lives definitely does fit this bill. While it does try to be comedic at times, it does have this feeling that the main protagonist does have feelings of things like eugenics, and there is always a feeling of their lives itself are at stake. They essentially can revive in this world, but if they all die at the same time, it's implied that they will essentially die for real. And some of the things they kind of go through when they're trying to wait for revival does get a little bit dark. Spirit Chronicles, in a sense, has started out with more of a darker setting. You do have a lot of murder. The body that he has been isekai'd into has seen a lot of dark things. And there's a lot of things about difference of classes and racism within the world itself as well. On the more relaxing side, to counter this, shows that are more relaxing, feel more laid back, and more about the cutesy aspect of the characters as well, easily Drugstore in Another World fits this bill. This is a show that's extremely laid back, doesn't really try to push too many heavy themes at all, really, and a lot of the focus is around the cute characters and what they're kind of doing on a daily basis. And I would also add into the relaxing category My Next Life is a Villainous Season 2. The series has always been very fun. Mainly the main character herself is very understanding and very welcoming of a lot of people. And the kind of her nature itself is very healing. It's kind of very reminiscent of something like Tora Honda from Fruits Basket. On the more side of shows that are more power fantasy related, stuff that have really powerful main characters, definitely That Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime fits that bill. Remenu himself is extremely powerful, and there's a lot of powerful characters in his kind of surrounding as well. While he doesn't want to admit it, the main character in Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy definitely is overpowered. Essentially, his ability to manipulate things in any way that he wants that are around him, his aptitude to magic and physical abilities definitely makes him extremely overpowered. Spirit Chronicles additionally also seems to have a sense that his character is extremely powerful as well. On the more complex shows, the Build the Nation types of shows, these are shows that are kind of more focused on the idea of building up a nation and helping things with the world itself rather than it just being about the character punching things to win. Reincarnated as Slime has always kind of felt that way in its early days. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly what the second season, part 2, is getting into at this point because I haven't gotten caught up yet. That has always kind of been a focus of this series overall. As you would guess it, how Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom definitely is focusing on this, rebuilding the world in the sense of helping with the nation with its money problems, helping its agricultural issues they're dealing with, and ultimately building up the nation to be stronger going forward. Like I mentioned earlier, Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy definitely has a sense that it's going to go in more of a build a nation type of aspect, just because this dragon that he overcomes ends up having this alternate dimension where he's essentially moving civilians into so they can build their own nation within it. And finally, while it's a company, it's still basically the same idea, but the Dungeon of Black Company essentially is this idea where the main character is really trying to focus on building some sort of company that he can essentially live off of, have other people do the work for him. And so he has to build up this company in a sense in the same idea. And I'm certain it will probably get bigger and bigger as it goes along, unless he keeps having his hands slapped every episode. If you're going more for cutesies or waifu material, definitely you're in the more area of something like Spirit Chronicles. I definitely think How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom definitely got a layout of several waifu characters that are probably going to pursue the main character. Drugstore of Another World has some cute characters in it as well. But of course, I think Slime's got a pretty huge repertoire of waifu characters already kind of built over its time period. If I had to get my pick for the shows that are seemingly doing the most unique stuff, I would definitely give it to something like The Dungeon of Black Company. I think that show overall already has really kind of captivated me by, yes, it's a strictly kind of a more comedy-related isekai, but the things that it's doing with the idea of building a company rather than a nation is definitely something that is setting itself aside from a lot of the isekais that I've ever watched. Additionally, with Tsukimichi having this aspect of him being essentially a returned isekai character is definitely unique, and I am interested to see what it does with its sort of nation building aspect as well, along with the aspect that this dragon that he has tamed essentially is pulling away at his memories and looking into his previous world and what kind of little comedy beats that can create. On the shows that I think have the most potential, I'm extremely excited for Sunny Boy, and I'm really interested to see what it does, and like I said, if it does go in the route of something like a Lord of the Flies type of layout, and what really can do with the characters in more of a seemingly real and adult setting. I think Black Company, Sunny Boy, Spirit Chronicles, and Tsukimichi are definitely like in the higher bits of my isekai shows for this season. But that's your Isekai Digest for the summer 2021 anime season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some information out of it. Definitely leave feedback below. Let me know what you would possibly want to see in a future Isekai Digest. What kind of aspects of isekais you want to know more with making your decision making on which ones to watch. But either way, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, it definitely helps us out. But I hope you all enjoyed, and y'all take care.